Kingdom.
Live.
So on at it. What's hot? Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni.
Yeah, when it's grim, be the Grim Reaper and go get it.
It's Mahomes' house. And it is good. Woo! Arrowhead man. The Lombardi Trophy has a red and gold reflection. You gotta fight for your right to party.
Kansas City 46, 2:19 left to play. The 2-minute warning will stop the clock. That's it for the Ravens. They must stop Kansas City here because the Ravens are out of timeouts.
I just can't see them throwing the football.
Mahomes has Pacheco in the backfield. The Chiefs quarterback stands in the shotgun. He takes the snap. He wants to throw. Lobs it deep down the middle. He's got Valdez-Scantling wide open at the 20-yard line. He makes a falling catch, and that is going to do it. It will run us to the 2-minute warning, but the Ravens are out of timeouts, and this season is out of days.
Woo! Howdy, Chiefs Kingdom. It's Wednesday. It's 8 o'clock. It's Chiefs Kingdom Live. Thank you so much for joining us. Real quick, while you're here, if you wouldn't mind, click or tap that like, tap that subscribe, help spread the word, tell some friends, tell some family members, tell some Chiefs fans. We'd sure appreciate it. Got a great show lined up tonight. Just going to revel in a big win on the road against the Baltimore Ravens in the AFC Championship game. And yet another trip to the Super Bowl for our Kansas City Chiefs and Chiefs Kingdom. What a time to be alive and be a fan of this team. Before we get into it, Nick, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty fucking good, aren't I?
Right.
I mean, not to sell you out or nothing, but when we were younger, there was a bet that was made about Chiefs and Super Bowls and whether it would happen or not. And to think back and now that we've gone to 4 Super Bowls in 5 years. I mean, it's something I never thought would happen. The play with MVS there, we'll talk about kind of our reactions, I'm sure, but I've probably watched that play 25 times since it happened. I've just watched it over and over and over again. I don't know. Maybe that's a
only
low
25.
Just the balls in that situation to us 48 air yards, right? 32-yard pass, third down to go to the Super Bowl again. That's been juicing me up all week, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. The announcer saying, there's no way they throw the ball right here.
Yeah.
I don't see them throwing the ball right here. That's because you don't have Patrick Mahomes, bro, on your team. That's why you don't see them throwing the ball. Yeah, I'm doing fantastic. It's just, the bet, man. A bet that I was glad to lose. It was after a lifetime of getting beat down and disappointing playoff loss.
I didn't know if I was going to win.
Loss, man.
Right?
It just seemed like this team was cursed or something, but little did we know down the road here, we would end up with a quarterback from Texas Tech University named Patrick Mahomes, who we'll talk about here before too long. But yeah, just feeling really good. Just like I said, just what a time to be alive and to be a fan of this team. And it's people say a lot of the times they'll use the term this is unbelievable. This is really unbelievable. Like, I don't believe what this team has done.
Sometimes I wonder if I'm living in a simulation. You know, you ever see that Tom Cruise movie Vanilla Sky where it turns out that I mean, I'm like, everything's going really well in my life. The Chiefs are in the Super Bowl every year. I got a great family. Job's good. Like, am I going to wake up someday and just realize it's all fake?
Right.
Wow.
It's good to see everybody in the chat. I hope you all are doing as well as we are. We got Chris and Brenda. It looks like Big Doug and Laney. Maria's in the house. Good to see you, Maria. Thanks for coming by. Big Chris there. Big Doug. Yeah, there was a little bit of dirty play by the Ravens for sure in that game. That's sort of that team's MO though, right? Them and the Steelers, they're in that AFC North. I mean, when I think of teams that are kind of known for playing maybe a little bit over the edge of dirty or tough, you think the Steelers, the Ravens, the Raiders. Those are kind of like those teams are in that brand. But the good guys came out on top in this one. We might as well just get into it and start talking about it. 17-10 win on the road in the AFC Championship game from M&T Bank Stadium, which did anybody else here know that the M&T stood for Mahomes and Travis's Bank Stadium?
Ew.
They go in there and get the job done against the
most invincible team that's ever played football in the entire history of the NFL.
I mean, one of the 5 greatest teams of all time, people were saying, all the prognosticators picking against the Chiefs. There was a few here and there that I saw pick the Chiefs, but it was pretty overwhelming favorite amongst the experts and the NFL media and the talking heads on these big NFL shows. Chiefs get it done. Against all odds. I mean, they're the defending Super Bowl champions, and you'd think they were some scrappy upstart team here that was getting their feet wet in championship games. 6 straight championships. Chiefs win 4. That's something that I think might have gotten lost or really wasn't talked a whole lot about. You go to 6 straight AFC championship games, but you go 3-3. If they would have lost, you're 500. 4-2 sounds so much better, right, than 3-3. So they get it done. Just before we kind of break down some individual performances, there's no shortage of records and amazing plays and players to talk about. We'll get to all that. I kind of know how you were feeling watching the game because you were watching it here at the house with the fam and everybody. But just overall thoughts on the game.
I think the Chiefs came out with a game plan that they were going to punch the Ravens in the mouth and that they were not going to be pushed around and they were not going to be bullied. I think that they executed that very well defensively for the entire game. Offensively in the first half, I think in the second half, you and I have talked about whether or not we agree with the strategy or if it was a strategy. I think the Chiefs knew, based on how their defense was playing, that as long as they didn't turn the ball over or make any large mistakes on offense, that they were going to get out of there with a win. And I think that was the message. And so I think, in soccer, they kind of call that bunker ball, where you're really just primarily playing for defense and to not give up goals rather than, really going out to score. I know soccer is a little different, but I think that was kind of the plan, right? Let's run the ball. We're going to throw screen passes. Unless somebody's wide ass open down the field, we're not going to throw to them. We're not going to do, some of these riskier throws that you saw maybe Mahomes make in the first half, like, scrambling for 9 seconds and then kind of shot putting the ball to Travis Kelce for a diving catch. And they just knew that as long as the defense was holding up and they had a 2-score lead, they didn't have much to worry about. And that's really what happened. And then at the end of the game, when they needed it and they needed that play to make it happen, number 15 to number 11, just like we all thought all season, was the game clincher, man. It was an awesome game, well executed. Kudos to the defense. The defense just played lights out, made all the big plays that you need. And yeah, I just think it was a really good team effort in a really well coached game by the Chiefs, with maybe one mistake where they went for it on 4th instead of kicking a field goal.
Yeah, it was an exciting game, fun game to watch. Chiefs led the entire way, but they never really pulled away to the point where you felt too comfortable, right? It was still exciting. hate to say nerve-wracking because it's hard to say that when you're never behind in a game.
Right.
And they had a 2-score lead for a majority of that game. Come out, couldn't have asked for a better start. You win the coin toss, you defer, you get a 3-and-out, and then you get the ball right back. You get the ball and you go down and score a touchdown right out. I mean, that's set the tone. I really felt for the game. That was kind of how the game went, right? Defense getting stops, the offense moving the ball, scoring points. Had some points taken off, which we'll talk about there. That could have been a wider margin of victory and maybe a little bit more comfortable. But, yeah, just a really hard-nosed, fun game to watch in a hostile environment. You could hear the crowd, and you could tell it was a pretty wild scene there at the Ravens Stadium there in Baltimore by the audio on the television. Yeah, just an exciting, fun game, man. I enjoyed watching it. Had a little bit of everything. Like I said, not too nerve-wracking because Chiefs had kind of control of the game for the most part. A couple tenuous spots there at the end, but well, I mean, where do you want to start? Patrick Mahomes. He's the guy that going into this postseason, he's never won a road playoff game, right? We'll see how they do. Like that's some sort of knock that you were so good that you were able to be seated high enough to play every game at home, but gets 2 road playoff wins. This one was huge. You could tell that they wanted it. The guy was making plays, especially in that first half. Yeah, we talked about he didn't really do as much in the second half. He was on pace to have almost 400 yards passing at one point in the first half. Was carving up the Ravens defense, which was unstoppable. One of the greatest defenses in NFL history, if you want to go by DVOA or some of these other metrics that the analytics people use. But he came out, and you could tell he was motivated, and he was focused, and he was ready to go in that game. Patrick, Nick, what maybe stands out the most to you about the way he played and the performance he had on Sunday?
I think this was his 6th consecutive postseason game where he has not thrown an interception, which has never happened, right?
Right.
Or fumbled. Yeah, no turnovers. Never happened in the history of the NFL. And I think that really speaks to, how he played in this game. I mean, the Ravens, they led the league in turnovers. We've talked about turnovers being a killer for us in the regular season this year. Turnovers and drops. We talked about that ad nauseum, right? And I think that Patrick went out there with the mentality of, I'm the best player on the field. You guys are not going to push me around. And that, sorry, my cat just came down here.
Right.
Me in the middle talking. I'll throw him outside. No, and that I'm also going to be smart with the ball, right? And I'm not going to be pushing. And you saw the difference in the 2 quarterbacks there, where one was playing his game and doing what he was best at, and the other one felt like that he had to push. And I think that was one of the major differences in the game. It led to 3 Baltimore turnovers, right? But Patrick, he's like, okay, second half, some of these looks aren't there. I'm going to go to the check down guy, right? We're going to run the ball. And they got yards. They didn't get any points, but they didn't necessarily need the points right at that point in time. So I think that it was just really a phenomenal performance in him doing what he does, but also showing a level of maturity and a level of patience, I think, that he maybe didn't have in his first couple of years in the league. So.
Right. Just echo a lot of what you're saying. The kind of prevent offense there in the second half. I never really felt the Chiefs had a big enough lead to really feel comfortable doing that. I don't know if that was by design or not. But, yeah, he just came out, and we talked about this last week. This team has accomplished so much.
Yeah.
I feel like going on the road for these 2 playoff games has given Patrick and the rest of the team, but Patrick maybe the most so, like a new challenge, something new to accomplish, right? And something new to motivate them and do something they hadn't done before, even though it seems like he's done everything. When you look at all the records the guy is setting and what he is doing, somehow, some way, a new set of challenges and goals and obstacles to clear presented themselves. And he has shown himself to be up to every challenge and every obstacle that's been thrown his way in his career, whether it's been coming from behind, whether it's been lighting up scoreboards with bad defenses and needed him to throw for 300 plus yards and 2 or 3 or 4 touchdowns every game, whether it's been playing at home, whether it's been in the playoffs, whether it's been playing in the Super Bowl and championship games, different receivers, different receiving cores, different styles of offense, sometimes having a running game when he had Kareem Hunt to lean on, other times where the Chiefs really had no running game and he was the entire offense. The guy is just, said at the beginning of the show, people use the term unbelievable a lot. It really is unbelievable and amazing what he's been able to do so far in his young career. The guy, if he walked off the field tomorrow, he'd be a Hall of Famer, right? I mean, with what the guy's done.
You can't make 4 Super. I mean, he's from a postseason perspective, he's already matched Peyton Manning's Super Bowls, right?
Yeah.
Went to 4, won 2. Even if he doesn't win this one, I mean, you're talking Peyton Manning's career. Maybe you could give some arguments on career yard production, but
right.
I don't think you're going to have a 2-time MVP, 2-time Super Bowl, 4-time AFC champion not be in the Hall of Fame.
No, definitely not. So you look at there's no shortage of stats and records that the guy is setting. He's on pace way ahead of Tom Brady, who is the GOAT. And our man JT was asking us last week or a couple weeks ago about if we thought he was better than Tom Brady or not. You look at what he's accomplished now. I mean, he's been to more Super Bowls by age 30. He's got more regular season wins. He's got more playoff wins. He's got more AFC titles than Brady had at this point in his career. He's one behind him with Super Bowl titles, but he could tie that, obviously, in 2 weeks.
Yep.
He's got more MVPs, more Super Bowl MVPs than Brady at this point in his career. It's unprecedented what the guy has done and the way he's played and the things that he's accomplished. And the discussion about every year, it seems like they want to prop up one of these guys, a Josh Allen or a Lamar Jackson or a Joe Burrow, is his peer, or is he better than him? Has he passed him by now? Those guys aren't even in the conversation. You could maybe say Joe Burrow, because Joe Burrow did beat him in a playoff game in an AFC Championship game, but he didn't win the Super Bowl he went to. He's nowhere close to Patrick as far as the counting stats, yards, touchdowns, passer rating, things like that. We're watching something that has never been done in the history of a sport that's been played for over 100 years now.
Right.
Nick Wright on his show, he had a stat there for postseason passer rating and touchdowns and interceptions in his rank. First down the list. It's not a small sample size at this point. The guy's played 17 postseason games. He's 14-3 with almost 5,000 yards passing, 30-something, almost 40 touchdowns, less than 10 interceptions. I mean, that's an MVP season that he's been able to put together in just postseason games. That's not even factoring in what he's done in the regular season. So,
yeah,
kudos to that man. I don't know. If they win this Super Bowl, 3 Super Bowl trophies, he's 28 years old. Maybe starts running out of things to do other than just chasing Brady at that point, right? I mean, there's nothing left to prove, nothing else to show or to do. I mean, can you see anything that would be left for him to really need to improve if he goes out and wins this Super Bowl next week?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he has anything to prove now necessarily, right? I mean, it's just really the longevity of his career. And Travis Kelce talked a little bit about that on New Heights. We've said it's hard for them probably after, playing Burrow in the AFC Championship game to get up for Week 11. He said almost exactly that same thing.
Yes.
When you know you're going to kick this team's butt, it's hard sometimes to get mentally motivated to go in and do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think there's, anything for him to prove. Now, I think really kind of the last thing was, well, can you win on the road in the playoffs? Now, it's just his career's kind of been a yeah, but, right? Well, yeah, but wait till the league figures him out, right? Well, yeah, wait till he doesn't have Tyreek Hill. Well, yeah, but wait until he's making a ton of money and he's not on that rookie contract anymore. Yeah, but like wait until I don't know, he has to go on the road in the playoffs. There's just, it doesn't matter what the guy does it. And Brenda, you bring up a good point. That is one thing. If you want to talk about like greatest of all time, right? I think that I don't know that it'll get to 7, but there are 2 things that he could do that I think would put him in that conversation without winning 7 championships. One is the 3-peat below. The other is the perfect season with the Super Bowl win, right?
Right.
Would that be 20-0 now? With the way the season works out. So yeah, but I don't know if that's necessarily something to prove. You know what I mean?
Just be something to accomplish.
He has accomplishments out there, but yeah, I don't know. He's proven everything. He can do everything. So
yeah. And at the pass, you were talking about it, game on the line. It wasn't like they threw a screen pass out in the flat, a safe pass, right? If he doesn't complete that pass right there, the clock stops on the other side of 2 minutes. The Ravens, they still don't have any timeouts, but that's more than enough time with the 2-minute warning to get down and try to get a touchdown. So the guy, Rich Eisen, said on his show a couple weeks ago, or last week, I should say, before the championship game, saying the man's got, he's cold-blooded. Inside is a cold-blooded individual, and if you cut the man, the blood that's going to come out is cold. The guy, I don't even know if he's got blood in his veins. He's got liquid nitrogen or something. I don't. Is there a colder substance on Earth than liquid nitrogen? Because
I don't know, man.
Yeah, they wear those heart rate monitors, and you have all this stuff now. People are saying that his heart rate is like actually goes up when he goes to the bench and he's watching, and then when he comes back onto the field, the heart rate goes down when he's in control of what he's doing. To throw that pass, I know a lot of people say, "Oh, he didn't do anything in the second half," except throw a 40-yard dime with the game on the line to seal it. How many other quarterbacks make that throw? How many other quarterbacks are put in the position or have the trust, right? That's something that you have to earn. And that
Josh Allen didn't make that throw, did he?
No.
He left it short, right? Now, he had a guy getting pushed into him, but still didn't make the throw.
Right. And that wasn't even with the game on the line to seal it, right? It would have made it a lot harder for the Chiefs to come back. They had to go down.
And it wasn't an AFC Championship.
And it wasn't a championship game. I don't know of any players I've ever seen that make that play or even are allowed to attempt to make that play.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's unbelievable. It's the only thing that I can say with what you're watching. It's the greatness and the things that the guy does that literally nobody else in the history of the game has ever done. With that said, there's another man on this team that's accomplishing things that have never been done and are almost, or maybe they are equally as unbelievable. Travis Kelce, number 87. The guy goes, 11 catches on 11 targets for 100-plus yards and a touchdown. He passes Jerry Rice. You heard that right, folks. He passed Jerry Rice for the most postseason receptions in a career.
In less games. Like not considerably less.
He tied him, the great Jerry Rice, who is widely regarded as, people will say, who's the best quarterback of all time or who's the best this of all time? Jerry Rice is pretty widely recognized as the greatest player. Maybe people would argue Tom Brady, but you look at the records and the stats and the things that Jerry Rice has and just how far ahead he is of second place in yards and receptions and touchdowns and postseason records. Travis Kelce is passing up and catching that guy. He tied him with most 100-yard receiving games in postseason with 8 games. This dude, there's a discussion always with who's the greatest of all time at the tight end position, him or Gronk. I don't see how people make that argument with what the man has done in the regular season. He should have had his 8th straight 1,000-yard receiving, which would have put him in, I think, Mike Evans and Jerry Rice and maybe one other guy have done that for a career. Travis Kelce, a lot was talked about the rookie safety, Kyle Hamilton. He hadn't given up a touchdown to a tight end all year, and he was the tight end killer. It kind of similar to what's the guy from the Bills we've heard for the last few years was going to be the kryptonite to Travis Kelce, and he roasted him in the 13-second game to catch that touchdown pass. He goes out and has a perfect day, 11 for 11 with over 100 yards and a touchdown against the guy. Nick, Travis Kelce, what would you want to say about him and the way he played in that game?
Just the level of consistency in those moments against the best of the best, right? We heard a lot of negative stuff about Kelce. Like he had some bad year. He played 14 or 15 games, right? And he still almost cracked 1,000 yards. So, you know, there are a lot of people saying, oh, well, he's been a non-factor. He's distracted. He's washed. Gets to the postseason and no, he just, you know, he turned it on. He was able to do it. And I mean, he had I think it was against the Chargers, but he had a 170-yard game this season. So, like it's just, if you have a couple of bad games, people assume that you're just not good anymore on the internet, I guess. But yeah, just the level of consistency to be able to do that over and over and over again for that many years, and the level of football IQ that it takes to do that, right? We know he's not always running the routes that are called, that he's finding soft spots in the zone, that he understands what the defenders are going to do. Yeah. Hamilton is good, right? I mean, it only elevates just how good Kelce is. You don't need to demean exactly.
Right, that's the point we're making. The guy had an amazing season and couldn't touch Travis Kelce.
Right. And, you know, let's talk about that catch. There's been a lot of talk. Let me see who had the comment about that throw. There's been a lot of talk about that throw. And it was a great throw, exactly where it had to be. But Kelce also had to wait until the last second to turn around. He talked a little bit about it, and he said that the ball was probably 5 or 10 yards away from him when he turned around, when he actually spotted it and tracked it and caught it. I mean, that's greatness on both ends there. And just, you know, the teammate that he is, right? I mean, Mecole Hardman got dragged for fumbling the ball, and he goes out on the biggest podcast in the world and says, that's actually my fault, folks. You can don't get mad at him. Like, that was my guy that I was supposed to be blocking that knocked the ball out.
Yep.
You know? So just the great teammate, just the level of consistency when you're passing Jerry Rice for postseason statistics, and you're passing Gronk and Brady for most touchdowns. I mean, there's never been anybody like him, I think, that plays that position. You can maybe argue, I've heard now there's the argument of, okay, so there's career GOAT and then there's peak GOAT, right? I mean, okay, so if you want to say that maybe at the peak of their powers that you think Gronk was a better player than Kelce, fine. Personally, I'll take the guy that performs, you know, almost 8 straight 1,000-yard seasons and passes Jerry Rice in the postseason for catches over, you know, 2 or 3 or 4 years of really, really good play. So and just 4 87s today. I mean, I think in honor
both rocking 87.
Yeah, in honor of the achievements he's done and really kind of what he's given to the fan base of Kansas City over his career. You know, I mean, it's really special. It's really fun to watch, and gives us all a lot of pride, right? In the team, in supporting the team. And there's been plenty of time, like we were talking about earlier, where we've supported the team and we've kind of been left feeling silly for putting our money and or our time and our hearts into seasons, and to have it pay off at this level is just really incredible, man. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and to be able to shrug off all the naysayers and to be able to ignore the noise. And he's distracted this year with the whole Taylor Swift thing, and he's doing too many commercials. And oh, look, his play has slipped. The guy had a pretty bad knee injury to start the year and missed the first game of the year. I would argue the guy he probably wasn't healthy for a good portion of the year. I think if the guy doesn't get that injury before week 1, I think he easily clears and has another 1,300 yard season. He didn't get a whole lot of help, especially in the red zone, where defenses were doubling, even sometimes in some cases tripling him up down close to the goal line. So you saw the touchdown numbers down a little bit for him this year. But the guy, he doesn't show any signs to me yet of slowing down. And he's proved it in these playoffs. And it's just incredible the level of competition in the NFL. And then when you get to the playoffs and you're playing the best of the best year in, year out, the cream of the crop, to take your game up a notch or 2 notches, it is just something that I don't know that people, even like myself who watch football and football fans for a long time, can even really truly appreciate what it takes to do that, and just how hard and how difficult that is to put up the numbers. And like you said, to be as consistent as he had. And you go back and you just think of some of the games. I mean, the Chiefs of the 90s and before, they don't win that Houston Texans game when they get down 24-0. Travis Kelce had 3 touchdown catches in that first half, right, to bring the team to back, throwing the team on his shoulders. So props to that man. And like I said, the maturity and the humbleness, and he's almost like he doesn't want to even talk about the records, and he doesn't want the attention, and he doesn't want to make it about himself, which probably is a part of the reason the guy is amazing as he is and has been able to accomplish what he's accomplished. The rest of the offense had a good day. When I was looking at the box score there after the game, I saw that Rashee Rice had 8 catches. When did he have 8 catches? You know what I mean?
Well, they were giving him a lot of dumps and screens. Yeah, I mean,
he had a touchdown taken away. This offense overall, they moved the ball at will. I don't know how much of it was the prevent offense, as I like to call it.
Yeah,
running it up the middle a lot there in the second half. I don't know how much of it was the Ravens slowing down the Chiefs offense and how much of it was the Chiefs offense slowing themselves down. Andy took criticism from people like me before, like the Colts game where they blew the 28-point lead to Andrew Luck and were throwing the ball up with a huge lead. Maybe they swung a little bit too far and went a little bit too conservative there in the second half. But this offense, after being maligned for most of the regular season and not being what we're accustomed to seeing from a Patrick Mahomes and an Andy Reid Chiefs offense, they pretty much had their way in that first half and should have had more points. If they don't go for it on the 4th and 1, I understand the killer instinct there, and they had struggled to score points in the red zone as far as touchdowns, and were kicking a lot of field goals towards the end of the year, and in the Dolphins game and the Bills game. I would have liked to kick the field goal there, and made that 2-possession lead there. They have the touchdown by Rice on an amazing wide receiver screen there, called back on I don't know if you want to call it a phantom call. Most people I've known, and people that aren't even Chiefs fans, right, just your run-of-the-mill national media, saying, and former players from teams from all over the league saying, yeah, that's a pretty lame call on a screen. I mean, he's releasing the guy. It was more like as the guy was running by and his arm was kind of like in his way, and he like ran into his arm. Right? It wasn't like he had his arm hooked around and was like impeding his forward progress or his momentum and really stopping him from getting into the backfield and getting at the quarterback. You're looking at that could have been a 2 or 3 score lead at halftime. Chiefs offense, we talked about it. I feel like it's been addition by subtraction and getting some of the guys off the field that weren't producing, focusing more on the guys that were producing. So just a great performance against a really awesome defense in the Ravens. Were you surprised at all by kind of with the ease at which the Chiefs offense moved the ball?
I mean, yes and no, right? I mean, I didn't watch a lot of Ravens ball this year, so I wasn't as familiar with their team. But you know, you kind of hear it reminds me a lot of when we played the Eagles. I mean, you just hear that they're this kind of force, right? They have, you know, the Eagles last year I think is like the record for most sacks, but the Ravens are, you know, they're the first team ever to, you know, be first in scoring and number one in sacks, and I mean all this stuff, number one in turnovers. So you hear all this stuff, so you're thinking, okay, they're probably, you know, they might slow us down a little bit, right? It's going to be a low scoring game, which it turned out to be, but really in the first half, I mean, it looked, dare I say, it looked easy for the Chiefs getting down the field. I mean, even their you know, run defense. I mean, and credit to Isaiah Pacheco on that first run, because that was, I mean, one of the smallest holes I've ever seen someone 10
I
plus.
think they call that a crease, not a hole, right?
Yeah, I mean that's a locker. I mean, like,
you know what that reminded me of?
What?
That was Jamal Charles-esque.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. It was very it was smooth, right? The way that he just slipped through and then accelerated. So and you know, really the Chiefs just kind of seem to be having their way. I'm with you on the field goal. I will say that thanks to the power of screenshot internet, you know, if you look now, it appears that on that 4th and 1 that we didn't convert, that Isaiah Pacheco got kicked by, I think it was Jadeveon Clowney in the chest. So should have been half the distance to the goal, right? Or if he didn't kick him, who knows if he gets that extra half a yard. But I also look, I prioritize with our defense a 2-score lead in that. But yeah, I mean, I was impressed. I don't know if I was necessarily super surprised because we saw Mahomes do it against the Bills. I know the Bills had a lot of injuries, but we saw, you know, them have a good day against the Dolphins. You know, we're just kind of accustomed to seeing our quarterback come through in those situations. But I mean, it was still impressive to watch.
Yeah, they had a 9-something minute drive, one of the longest drives of Patrick Mahomes' career. They were converting third downs. There was a point in the game where I want to say they were 4 for 5. It may have been like 6 for 6 on third down against a top-notch defense. Guys making plays, Patrick scrambling a lot around, keeping plays open. The one play to Kelce where, and if you watch New Heights, Kelce talked about why it was as difficult of a play as it was, where they kind of changed the play as they were going through it, and Kelce really didn't like the change, and so he ran the original route and then was in the wrong spot, and then realized, oh, that's why I should have done that, and was able to double back. Pat was able to move around and keep the play alive just enough to get the ball to him. The third down conversions were huge. Isaiah Pacheco had some nice runs later in the game. It seemed pretty obvious that the Ravens were shutting down the run. I want to say they averaged less than 3 yards per carry in that game, but he had a nice punched it in on a nice running play there at the goal line. I think that was to put him up 14-7 at that point. So yeah, I think I picked them to score 20. What did I say in last week's episode? I think I had 26-21, 27-21. They had 10 or 13 or 14 points on the field there at the end. I mean, the past MVS is in field goal range too. They could have tacked on another 3 if it would have been necessary. So, yeah, I wasn't shocked, but I was a little surprised that they were able to come out there and get the lead and the way they did and move the ball, especially on those first few drives. Offense is clicking and they're playing great ball at the right time. They've talked about whether or not this team could flip a switch. It seems like they have flipped that switch offensively. Defensively, the Ravens were like the number one rushing offense in the NFL. A lot of that is Lamar Jackson running around and scrambling and designed runs for him. But they're no slouch. They're one of the top running teams every year. That's kind of their bread and butter. Play defense, run the ball, kind of old school football. The Chiefs' defense stymied them, and it started right out of the gate on the first drive. And the 3-and-out, the only touchdown that the defense gave up was on kind of a blown play where I don't know if the secondary stopped because they thought that Lamar Jackson was sacked. That was a play where Chanel kind of had him wrapped up, and Lamar Jackson was able to kind of duck underneath the tackle and the sack, and then the guy was open in the end zone, had Nick Bolton kind of chasing him. I can't imagine that that's the way that's supposed to be, right? It's kind of like a fire drill at that point. Once Lamar Jackson kind of broke the tackle and avoided the sack and kept the play alive. This defense, I don't know that they've got enough credit. They looked every bit as good as the Ravens defense did on Sunday. Nick, this defense, what are you seeing? What are you liking out of them, especially in this playoff run here?
Yeah, I think they're just playing smart ball, and you're seeing credit to Veach here with some of the additions he's made. First, I want to say, I'll probably never see it, but Omenahue, we really enjoyed having you on the team. We're really sorry about your knee injury, dude. But I mean, some of these pickups that we've had, him, Drew Tranquil, right? I mean, just coming through in some of these moments and playing really smart, and just having an attitude. And nobody's making business decisions, right? Nobody's, doing the honey badger at the line where they're jumping out of the way. Everybody's, diving for the ball. Everybody just seems to know what their assignment are. They're bought into the system, and they're playing together as a unit, and I think that's huge. When you talked about the touchdown with Bolton, and I know that he, quote unquote got burned, but in that situation, I kind of credit the Ravens offense because that's some scheming by them to figure out how to get Nick Bolton on Zay Flowers in the end zone, right? On a long play. And like you said, so if the pass rush gets there, that becomes irrelevant. But Lamar,
and I don't know if somebody that was supposed to be playing him stopped maybe in pursuit because they thought Jackson was sacked, made a play, and Nick Bolton just happened to see him. And was
right
hightailing it down there to try to cover him, but
so I mean,
really,
so but all together, it's just really they seem to play it well as a unit, and they seem to be able to make the right plays at the right time. I mean, sometimes you get a little lucky, right? I mean, the Snead play, it's a good hustle play, but sometimes you get a little lucky, and Dirty Dan pops that ball out with his helmet at the goal line, right? In the divisional round. Sometimes Snead just happens to reach out and punch the ball out because somebody's trying to reach it across the goal line, right? And they just seem to have a knack for making those types of plays when they need them, and so it's really invigorating to watch, right? And we said it, and we kind of were laughing at ourselves when the season wasn't going well, but we always said, give Patrick Mahomes a top 5 defense and you can kind of shut down the league, right? I mean, because he's not gonna lose the game for you. And going into the playoffs, we talked about, can they flip the switch? And I think what I said was, well, they don't have to do as much on offense, right? I mean, you can win an AFC Championship game by a touchdown scoring 17 points. So, when you have a defense that can perform like that, and also just basically not 100% shut people out in the second half, but I mean, not allow more than a touchdown in the second half throughout the playoffs, you're going to be in good shape. So kudos to them. Kudos to Steve Spagnuolo. There's been criticism of him, even though we've won 2 Super Bowls since he's been here, where we think that some of his defenses with the level of talent, we would have liked to see them, perform better. It seems like he's got these guys turned up and got them believing in the system, and they're just playing lights out, dude. It's just incredible to watch.
Yeah, I think that stood out to me about the defense was you saw it from all three levels of the defense, just like we've been seeing all year. Great secondary play. You talk about the L'Jarius Sneed play. That's an all-time great play in franchise history, let alone in this game or this postseason run or for this defense or this era of Chiefs football. McDuffie had a nice breakup on, I want to say it was a third down where he comes in and breaks up a play that would have been a nice gain going across the middle. The secondary, Deion Bush gets the interception. Ill-advised pass by Lamar Jackson, but he still caught it. How many times have you seen this team, you see that they play defense for a reason? That's the old saying. Well, that's why he's a corner, not a wide receiver, because they don't have the hands. But the defense made the plays in the secondary. The linebackers were good. They kept Lamar Jackson contained outside of maybe one or two plays where he kind of squirted free there and made some plays with his legs. He didn't have like those big, long back-breaking runs. He didn't have a touchdown run in that game. So the linebackers did their job, and they put pressure on him too. The defensive line was getting to him and was able to sack him and were batting passes down and were making him uncomfortable. I was a little surprised that it seemed like the Ravens maybe abandoned the run a little early. I don't know if they were trying to make this like Lamar Jackson's, I don't know, his signature work of art or whatever and have him drop back and throw the ball over the field. I don't know if maybe they got a little panicked when they got behind and the Chiefs offense was cruising.
We talked about it last week, man. Just if they get down multiple scores, they don't win.
Run the ball and play defense. That ain't going to get it done against this team because they came to play, and our defense is kind of leaking oil here. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what it was that caused the Ravens to kind of get away from the run game. The Chiefs did a good job of shutting the run down, and I don't. So it was a little weird for me that they decided to be as pass heavy as they were, but you saw this defense all year. Guys on all three levels making plays and making an impact. The L'Jarius Sneed play, I don't know if you can get to the X account and bring up. You talked about watching the 3rd and 9 pass to MVS 25 times. I've probably watched this video 125 times.
Hold on, I think I got it. Here we go.
I think it was DAZN.
NFL
on
DAZN. I got to click a lot of buttons to make this happen here.
With the great edit here, and really to me this is almost like kind of just illustrates the encapsulates the entire game. I mean, the Ravens were the favorite of the last 4 teams, and they were going to mow through the Chiefs, and they were going to win this game fairly easily en route to winning the Super Bowl. And L'Jarius Sneed comes in at the last minute and says, not so fast. And that's really what the Chiefs did to the Ravens. They were the 1 seed. They had the best record in football. They had all these metrics and analytics that were showing that they were a top 5 all-time team defensively in the offense. And they had beaten all these playoff teams by multiple scores, 14 points, 20 points, 30 points. They beat the Dolphins. What was that game? I want to say they put up 50-something. They beat them by 30-plus points. Wasn't the last game of the year. Second to last game of the year, right? Because that was the Bills and the Dolphins was the last game of the year for the Dolphins. And they just went in there and shattered the hopes and dreams of the Baltimore Ravens and their season. Anything else, stand out from this game, Nick, that we're missing here?
I thought that Tommy Townsend really delivered a great punt at the end after really not having a great day, right?
Right.
And coming in clutch, and Watson, a shout out for that. That caused them to take a long drive that then ended up in an interception, so no points. So yeah, shout out there.
Butker, another 50-plus yarder, right?
Yeah.
After refs to the rescue at the end of the first half where Chiefs are in field goal range and they call a weak-ass holding call that moved them back, and then they had the weak holding call that took the touchdown away and moved them back. Kudos to, who else? Travis Kelce caught the pass to get him back into field goal range.
Mm-hmm.
But Butker, dude, has been money. I want to say Brenda had a comment in there about he could be a huge weapon for the Super Bowl. We probably won't talk much about the Super Bowl tonight. Kind of want to put some stuff together for next week, and we'll have our Super Bowl preview show. I believe we're going to have a special guest next week that most of our friends in the chat would be familiar with. Somebody that knows about the Chiefs' opponent in Super Bowl 58 in Las Vegas. So going to tease that a little bit. I bet most of the fans here, the regulars in the chat, can figure out who I'm talking about. But yeah, it's just like Patrick Mahomes talked about this too. This is like an all three entire team win, all three phases. Special teams did their job. The defense more than did their job, and the offense came out and did their job. Where does this championship game rank as far as maybe like your favorites out of the six here? Obviously, the two that they lost probably aren't going to rank high, but where would you put that? Obviously, we had the AFC Championship game against the Titans to go to the first Super Bowl there. The beatdown of the Bills to go to the back-to-back Super Bowls. Last year's game against the Bengals was a hell of a game. Another close.
Yeah, Dylan can be Joe Montana.
What's that? Yeah, Joe Montana. You got it, Dylan. Don't tell anybody that. Keep the secret. So, where does this game rank in these six championship games the Chiefs have played in?
Yeah, so I was thinking about this in preparation for this question for the show that you didn't tell me you're going to ask, but I figured you're going to ask. So
we got that Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. We're exactly like that. Only we, do podcasts over the internet. So what I realized was that this was the first time that I got to be around all of like my extended family here in KC and watch us Super Bowl. Because the Titans AFC Championship game we were at, right? Which was great. I'm not complaining about going, but so it was me and you and 70,000 other Chiefs fans that were there. And then we were supposed to go to the Bills game, but unfortunately that was during COVID quarantine. And we had somebody that was sick in the house. And so you and I watched it from my living room with just the two of us. And then the Burrowhead my ass game against the Bengals, you and I were at that game too. So this is like the first time that I got to be around a bunch of families. So for me, I think that puts it probably like second or third. Just because like the Titans game, I think is always going to be my favorite, right? Just because that was like just getting that 50-year, you haven't been for 50 years. It's like us and the Jets. And, I was talking to some coworkers that were up in Minnesota today, and they were like, well, you guys at least won them. And I was like, yeah, but like we went years where it was like, it got to the point where we had a Super Bowl trophy, but it was Super Bowl IV. It was like, like so old. It was like the
black and white highlight video.
Yeah. It was before the Lamar Hunt trophy even existed. And the stands weren't even full. So I'm not discounting the Super Bowl, right? It was still a Super Bowl win, but it was just so old and I wasn't alive for it. So getting that monkey off our back and seeing our team actually like do it and go, I think is probably always going to be the most special one. But this one I would say would be like a close second because like I got to be around all of the family and stuff that we've watched the Chiefs with for so long. So as far as the games, right, I think that this was probably the highest quality win out of any of them. I think that this Ravens team was probably the toughest team and it's on the road. So, if you want to rank them as far as like difficulty, this is probably the most difficult test. I mean, they didn't have Tyreek Hill for this one. Mahomes is the first player now to make the Super Bowl while also having the largest cap number in the NFL. So he's the only person to ever do that. So if you rank them from like a level of difficulty and impressiveness, this is, probably the most impressive one. But, my favorite will always probably be the Titans game.
Yeah, agreed. It was nice. The curse of the old watch party here is over now. So kind of had like a running joke. People didn't want to come to my house to watch a game because they would lose. I mean, they would lose like 2 games in a year, and it was both games were the games where I decided to have the watch party here. But so we're able to break that curse. Yeah, it's a close second. I mean, it's right up there. It's like 1A and 1B. This game to go on the road and to beat that opponent, that Tennessee Titans team, I mean, they were a good team, but they were the Chiefs were like the clear favorites in that game. Hell of a game. I mean, you had the run by Patrick Mahomes, right? You had a couple of really good. I mean, the touchdown pass to Tyreek Hill was a hell of a play. You had Frank Clark sacking Ryan Tannehill to put the game
close it out. You had the Sammy Watkins game clincher, right?
Right. The amazing pass to Sammy Watkins down the middle of the field there, where really just kind of put the game away, and then the final nail in the coffin was Frank Clark sacking Tannehill. So playoff shark, man, we'd love to see that guy get signed, especially with the Minihue being out. I don't know how much Frank Clark has left in the tank here. He's been on a couple teams since he left the Chiefs and really didn't play much, do a whole lot, and is kind of, I think, looking for a team maybe for next year. Don't know if maybe his career's over at this point. Sure hope not. I one of my favorite Chiefs players, and just kind of like the attitude and the nastiness that he brought to this team. And
we didn't get the Frank Clark post AFC Championship interview.
Right. Yeah, we didn't get that post-game championship
it would have been lit too against that team.
Right. After this Ravens game. But, we talked about the win over the Bills and what the effect we think that's going to have on the Bills moving forward, especially next year. What do we think this does to the Ravens? Do we think this has lingering effects into next year for them? Do we think this is something to where they kind of look at it and say, man, this is our best chance, and kind of like a demoralizing loss for them? Or do you think they're probably good enough and got enough players and good enough coaching to where next year they're right back there in the top and one of the main competitors? I mean, what do you think this game does to them?
I think that they have plenty to walk away from this game and go, and we only ran the ball to running back 6 times, right? We didn't play to Lamar's strengths. We let them dictate the game. Some of the players probably, I mean, especially Lamar, I think let kind of the mystique and the way that the Chiefs play influence how they were playing. If you look at what Lamar has done, he has gotten better in the postseason as his career's gone on. And I know that it's popular right now to trash him, right? And to sit there and say, oh, he's a playoff choker, he choked us away. And I'm not saying that those criticisms are invalid, but like Peyton Manning also was a guy that couldn't win in the postseason and blew it. Now, I'm not saying that Lamar Jackson is Peyton Manning. They're like vastly different players, but like I think that they're both guys that are NFL MVPs. And I think that if you look at it that way, I think that they'll look at this and they'll learn from it. Will he ever go to a Super Bowl? I don't know. I mean, does he ever get there without Patrick, on the other end of the field? Because I'll tell you what, like I know that we laugh at the Bengals for pulling out the whole 3-1, right? Oh, 3-1, because one of them is an AFC Championship. But Lamar's now 1-4, right? Against the Chiefs. And he's called him his kryptonite. He's said publicly that he doesn't really like playing Patrick. I know that
the one was fluky.
I know that he's joking, but they say there's truth in every jest, right? I think that when he plays that team, like he knows that for whatever reason they get the better of him. So, I think that they're still going to be a really good team. And I think that they're going to, they have at least a couple more years to, of this type of success. I think they're also, there some of their coaches are getting poached that may impact them a little bit. And then also, like, I don't know if you noticed, but there were a couple of runs there where I thought Lamar a couple of years ago would have housed him. Like he got run down or got tackled. Like the 4th and 1, especially, right? I couldn't believe that he didn't score a touchdown on that. So I think they're going to be good. I still think they're going to be good next year. I don't think that you're going to see some epic collapse of their team, just because they're well coached and they have a really good roster. So.
Yeah, no, I think their coach. That's a good point to make. I think their coach is definitely one of the better coaches in the league. It was funny when they missed the playoffs or had a bad season there, especially with Lamar Jackson being hurt at the end of the day. There was people saying, "Is it time to move on from Harbaugh and Baltimore? And it would change the scenery, be good for the team and for him, right?" And then they're the number 1 seed and the clear best team in the AFC according to most experts this year. So I don't think that they fall off, but Joe Burrow comes back and has a healthy year next year. They're in a tougher division, man. I could see them dropping off a little bit, and I don't know. It seems like when the Chiefs beat teams in the playoffs, it kind of like knocks them down for a season or two afterwards. I mean, look what they did to the Texans. I know part of that was the Deshaun Watson fiasco, but
they had an idiot coach too.
Titans haven't been the same since they got whacked by the Chiefs there in that playoff game. The Bills, they been on the struggle bus. I mean, I know they were the 2 seed this year, but that was a Kadarius Toney foot away from being it. And it's so fun when you look back and think about like the way things affect things now. Who knows if we're talking about this run, right? And if the Chiefs beat the Bills in that game, they don't even play the Bills in the playoffs. And so interesting kind of stuff to think about there. Really fun game, though. The Ravens, I mean, they were a game opponent. And Chiefs went in there to their house and took care of business. So I don't know how much we want to talk about the NFC Championship game. Kind of a weird game. The Lions jumped out to a lead, right? And kind of choked it away, dropped passes, some poor decisions by the coach to not.
I didn't know that Dan Campbell hired Brandon Staley as like
right
assistant coach before that game.
Yeah, no, very puzzling. I get the killer mindset and that you want to go for it and you want to build a lead as big as possible, and when you can go from a 2-possession lead to a 3-possession lead, you've got to do it. You can't squander that. We're talking about the Chiefs kind of going for it on that 4th down early in the game here against the Ravens and not getting it. I thought that gave the Ravens some juice, and you go from putting a team down 3 possessions to giving them some momentum and some adrenaline on a big stop, and they get the ball back and keeping them, gives them more life, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Are the Lions better than the 49ers, do you think? I mean, which team of those do you think is better? You think the Lions should have won that game? They're the better team?
I mean, that's hard to say. I know that there was some fortunate things that rolled the 49ers way there, but they've come back in 2 straight playoff games. So you got to give credit to their grit, right?
Yeah.
You could argue, well, why were they down in the first place? But I mean, the Chiefs made much, noise about coming back from 10-point deficits in all of their postseason games and winning the Super Bowl. So, I don't know. I mean, I think that overall they should have won the game, right? I
Definitely
think that one of the things that was probably not talked about as much as it could have been was the fact that Jared Goff was one game away from leading two separate teams to Super Bowls.
Yeah.
A guy that was kind of thrown away from the Rams. They have a really good team, but that was a coaching deal. So I mean, they had the better game plan. They were up big, and then really it was just gaff after gaff after gaff to really just let that game slip away, man. I mean, not going for field goals in two different situations, and then at the end of the game, you have a chance to score a touchdown, and then use your timeouts to maybe get the ball back and go kick a field goal to tie. Even after mistakes you made, and you run the ball and don't get in, and then have to use one of your timeouts. I mean, I just don't understand those. And I'm just some idiot in my basement in Missouri. I'm sitting there like, dude, what is he doing? Why are they not kicking the field goal? Because then if the 49ers go score, then you're down 2 scores and the game is essentially over.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say that the Lions better team is hard to say. They definitely were the better team that game. But the better team doesn't always win, man. So
no, definitely not. Yeah. The fumbles, Jahmyr Gibbs, who has been an exceptional player this year, rookie. I mean, he's kind of one of these rare, okay, maybe a first round pick was worth it for that guy because he was so good for that team this year. But for him to have a fumble like that, guys to drop passes on key plays, especially third downs, it would have kept drives alive. But yeah, the coach, man, the coach he's got to learn. I like him. I think the players play hard for him. I think the guy is a good motivator. I think he's a sincere guy. I think he really cares about the players, and he talks about like everything is for you, and all I think about is for you and how to help you guys get to where we need to go. And the guys obviously. I mean, you take the Lions to the NFC Championship game, you're doing something with that franchise and the history, and almost talk about being cursed or talk about being a team that you just think never has any hope at all. I mean, that's the Lions. He had them a half away. I mean, 30 minutes away from a Super Bowl. Dude's got to learn from those mistakes, though.
He can do all that, but he doesn't know to kick the field goal.
Right. I mean, you cannot make that. That's just like you said. I mean, we're just people that watch the game on TV, and we knew, right? Like, dude, what are you doing? Kick field goal, go up by 17, bro. Like, yeah, if you could go up by 21, that'd be great, but 17 is good too. 2 field goals is a touchdown, right? And that's what makes Harrison Butker such a weapon. I mean, all you got to do is get basically to the other team's side of the field twice, and you're getting a touchdown without having to punch the ball into the end zone. So I feel like a lot of these teams and these coaches and stuff have swung too far the other way with the analytics and going for it. I know they have this, what's it called? Like the surrender rate. And it says, kicking the field goal or punting the ball here instead of going for it is a 78% surrender chance. Like you're surrendering your chance of winning the game by X amount of percent by not going for it. I think that's gone a little bit too far with some of these guys and some of these coaches. Brandon Staley, you mentioned him. He's now looking for a job, right? So I like the Lions. It was a nice story. Would have been one hell of a villain art to go in there and play the Lions and beat them.
Talk about everybody hating the Chiefs.
Never having gone to a Super Bowl. But I think that's still in play with the game against the 49ers. Brock Purdy is kind of like the new America's sweetheart quarterback, and he's been, a decent player. And again, we'll break down the 49ers and talk more next week when we do the Super Bowl preview show. Make sure you don't miss that. Make sure you're subscribed and you got your notifications on. That's gonna be a lot of fun. Bo should be back next week. Bo's traveling. I'm kind of surprised we haven't seen Bo pop up in the chat, at least here at all tonight. So
Yeah, where he is, I don't think he's got internet, is what he was saying. So,
right, yeah, he's traveling. Let's just put it that way, and he does a lot of traveling. So I know he was looking forward to talking about this game too, because that's one of the first text messages I got from him after the game on Sunday was, "Man, I can't wait to talk about this game on Wednesday." And I can't imagine where he's at. He didn't know he was not going to be here. I guess maybe he thought his internet would be a little bit better. So
here's what I'll say about analytics, right? If analytics really is important and as accurate as what everybody said or everybody says, then there's no way the Chiefs would have won that game.
no.
So, I mean, yeah. I don't know. I agree with you. They're just any time
2 field
you
goals
have
is a touchdown.
yeah, anytime you have something spitting out of a screen that doesn't seem right, and your immediate thought is, well, I just must be wrong. I'm going to do this thing that feels incredibly stupid.
Right.
Maybe
Go with
like
your
you should
gut.
sit there and go, maybe this isn't right. I don't know. And if it's an aggression thing, like we're going to be aggressive, and I know that Dan Campbell's got that famous, speech about biting kneecaps and stuff and all that. Like, I mean, that don't make you tough, and that doesn't make you aggressive. That makes you stupid. Like, I don't know. I'm still just beside myself with the decisions he made in that game. But congratulations to the 49ers.
Yeah.
You had a coach make some really dumb decisions, and you got the football gods on your side with a ball that bounced off of a guy's helmet and was completed to your receiver for a 50-yard bomb.
Right.
So,
yeah, I'm not gonna lie. When Lamar Jackson had the pass to himself, I got a little nervous. I was like, "Oh, this can't happen to us again."
I suddenly felt freezing rain on my face, and I was
Right.
like, "Oh no, I'm back at the Titans game."
Right. It was funny.
Marcus Mariota.
New Heights, Travis Kelce talked about that play and talked about like getting that feeling. He's like, man, you see something like that happen, and you're like, oh, man, they're getting this shit now.
Because it was almost a
they
pick,
are not
dude.
on our side right now. But
It was almost a Justin Reed interception.
Right. The football gods have been on the Chiefs' side. 4 Super Bowls in 5 years. We talked about this earlier this week. They're a D Ford foot offsides away, and Tyreek Hill not getting into the end zone by 1 yard from going to 6 straight Super Bowls, basically. I mean, think about that. If you talk about what an amazing accomplishment the Bills going 4 straight was, the Chiefs, they had a damn good chance of going to 6 straight. 4 in 5 years is still, there's only been 2 quarterbacks other than Patrick Mahomes to do that, are Tom Brady and Jim Kelly.
Yeah, it's wild.
Joe Montana never did that. Peyton Manning never did that. Terry Bradshaw. I mean, the all-time greats, Roger Staubach, Bart Starr, going way, way back. Those guys never did that. It's just such a good time to be a Chiefs fan and just enjoying the ride so much. Not sure if anybody in the chat's got any questions about the game or anything that stood out that they wanted to talk about before we get out of here tonight. Got Brenda's in here talking about karma. Yeah, that's true. How about Andy Reid and Taylor Swift like pointing each other after the game?
Andy Reid and Taylor Swift pointing at each other?
Right, yeah, like Andy Reid and Taylor Swift are just down now, apparently. Like they're besties or some shit.
Evidently, he's known her dad since his Philadelphia days.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I mean, we stole her from the Eagles, so, I mean, we took the Super Bowl from them last year, and now we're taking their fans away from them. I can't imagine Eagles fans feel too good about seeing Jason Kelce at all these Chiefs games
just wearing Chiefs stuff
and wearing Chiefs gear. That's gotta sting a little bit if you're an Eagles fan. We don't have any Eagles fans in the chat, but I know you know some Eagles fans, Nick. You ought to ask them, or I kind of like to know what their thoughts are. I mean, if that game last year would have gone the other way, I'm not so sure I would want to see Travis Kelce like rocking an Eagles jersey or an Eagles beanie as they were going back to the Super Bowl the following year.
Yeah, I didn't ask, just because look, their season ended poorly, and they're all very convinced that they need a new coach. So
Yeah, I don't know.
dude,
It's
Travis,
so
how
funny.
about them Chiefs, man?
Yep, man, Travis, good to see you, Travis. Thanks for joining us. Hope you're doing good tonight. Yeah, no, that's that might be pouring salt in the wound a little bit of the Eagles fans there. As far as their coach, look, here's the deal. Jalen Hurts was hurt this year. I have been hesitant to get behind a lot of these quarterbacks that are run first a whole lot, right? Or for long term. I thought the Eagles kind of overachieved a little bit last year. I was kind of surprised that they were that they kind of were as dominant as they were and that they were the clear number one seed in the NFC. I didn't really see that coming the offseason before. I mean, the year before, Jalen Hurts was throwing some of the worst interceptions I ever saw in that playoff game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I don't know. You see these teams, they kind of jump up and then kind of come back down to earth, which just makes it even more impressive, right? That the Chiefs are, I mean, they're in this thing every year. 6 straight AFC Championship games is insane. I mean, I think the Patriots went to more. They went to 7 or 8 straight, but man.
Well, in a year where the team really was down, right?
It's a down year playing in the Super Bowl.
So, yeah, but to think that now they've gone as a 1, a 2, and a 3 seed.
Yeah.
Wow.
How I mean, how many straight AFC Championship games does this team go to? You got to figure they're going to be better next year.
Rashee Rice
is going to get some weapons on offense.
Great.
Most of the defense is going to come back. If I'm the Chiefs, I figure out a way. I tag Chris Jones or I tag Snead and sign the other one and kick that can down the road and figure it out for another year. These guys, the defense is young. It's one of the youngest, if not the youngest defense in the NFL. Rashee Rice has really come on and turned it on at the end of this year. You go out in the draft or free agency and get Patrick another weapon or two. Maybe give a guy like Isaiah Pacheco. Maybe you get some thunder and lightning. Maybe you get another running back in here that maybe has a little bit different skill set than Pacheco, who's kind of like a real violent, angry, hard style runner. Chiefs got it. They're going to be better next year, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, you got to think that they have $20 million, I think, in cap space. Rashee Rice is going to be another year wiser and another year better. He's a rookie this year, and this is what he's been doing, right? So we got here's a good question. The CEH gone next year?
Yeah, I think he's gone next year.
You don't think they give him like a 1-year McKinnon deal?
No, I don't think so. I don't see that. Do you think he's back next year?
I think he's earned it in this season, to be honest.
I don't know about that. He's had some nice plays, but he is not. I mean, he has not consistently produced for big plays. I mean, a couple of games. They had a couple of good plays in a couple of games here towards the end of the year, but he still looks a lot like himself.
I'm not saying I want him back. I'm just saying that, I mean, I think that they would probably look at it like, he's earned it. I mean, the way that he persevered in the,
he's been a good sport. Yeah, I mean, he's been a good sport about it, and he's had a good attitude. And
do you think he gets another contract with some other team?
I don't know. There's probably a team out there that look at a guy like that and maybe
see if they can have their guys like rub some of that Chiefs magic off.
Right. Yeah, I can see him like kind of like in a backup like he is now. But yeah, I just don't see it. I think if the Chiefs were going to keep him, they would have extended him by now, right? Or they would have done something. I don't want to bash the guy any more than we already have, but I don't think he's done enough here down the stretch. Even with what he's done, I still don't think it's enough to find himself back on the team next year. So,
but yeah, to your point, I think that the Chiefs are going to be better next year. I think this is their down year, and they've got a lot of young guys. I think they have the youngest defense in the league, if not one of the youngest defenses in the league. I guess if we win back-to-back Super Bowls and Travis Kelce retires after this year, he hasn't said anything about it, but if he decided to retire, that could hurt us into the upcoming year. But we could take some of his money and maybe get like a T. Higgins, is going to be a free agent. Maybe get somebody like that, and then you got to look at what everybody else is coming up against, which is, Joe Burrow's contract kicking in, Justin Herbert's contract kicking in, Lamar's is going up, and you've got, so I mean, I think it's going to be somewhat easier because of that. Harbaugh coming to the Chargers could be a deal, but
yeah, they're in cap hell though. I mean, they're gonna have to they're gonna have to get rid of guys, and they're not gonna be able to go out and supplement that roster at all with
they're gonna have to draft
financially.
Right?
I mean, they're gonna have to go out and hit on 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 draft picks and have guys come in and be studs.
But the Broncos, they okay. So if they're moving on from Russell Wilson, they've got no answer at quarterback right now, right? The Raiders, they really don't have any answer. They're not going to be running Adrian O'Connell out there, are they?
No, Aiden O'Connell's not the answer long term for that team. And I know that they hired the interim coach as the coach, and the Raiders played hard for that guy and were feisty, and they've got a couple pieces. But yeah, I don't see them being a real threat. Division.
Yeah, it's hard to say that the Chiefs aren't going to win the division again next year. Obviously, lots of things can happen, but yeah, I mean seven is pretty plausible, man. I mean, and
I'd bet on it at this point. I'd say it's more likely than not.
I mean, especially if we
go back next year,
if we win this Super Bowl, we've got back-to-back with Mahomes in his prime and a chance to three-peat.
He wants it.
You can just see me drifting off into fantasy world now.
If it's we get a little ahead of ourselves here, but
yeah,
we still got to play the game next week. But
we got to play the game. Yeah,
right. Maybe you got to play the game. So, but all right, man. Well, I think we're gonna jump out of here for tonight. Been a lot of fun talking about the game. Really, just kind of surreal. You don't take it for granted. You've heard Patrick and Travis saying that after the game. It never gets old. It'll never get old winning AFCs and Lamar Hunt trophies and going to Super Bowls. Thanks again to everybody who tunes in and watches. It's really great to see you all. Make sure you're clicking that like. Make sure you're clicking that subscribe. Getting lots of videos and lots of views on the channel, but kind of lacking in the likes. So make sure you're doing that for us. Help spread the word. We're going to have an awesome Super Bowl 58 preview show next week with a special guest. Bo should be back. This is a place you're going to want to be to get all your tidbits and all your Super Bowl knowledge for when you're walking around the water around the office and you're standing at the water cooler next week and chiming in and giving your 2 cents about the game. Derek Thomas's number, baby. Got to win number 58 for number 58, right? I mean, it's the stars are aligning. This team seems like they're on a path of inevitability with getting this Super Bowl. Another chance to go back-to-back, which hasn't been done in 20 years. We're going to break it all down. We're going to have all the numbers and all the scenarios and all the stats. And obviously we'll do score predictions, getting you ready for the big game in Las Vegas, Super Bowl 58. So Until next week, let's go Chiefs.
Let's go Chiefs.